اهلا بكم في مره جديده من Welcome to Canada your new home. يا رب كلكم بخير وسلام وصحه وسعاده اينما كنتم. النهارده فرحانين جدا ومتشرفين يكون معانا استاذ سام بشاي، وهو محامي في اونتاريو كندا. اهلا بك يا سام معانا.
اهلا وسهلا. ثانك يو.
سام، احنا فرحانين جدا النهارده ومتشوقين الحلقه، ناس كتيره طلبوها مننا، واحنا النهارده بنتكلم عن الوصيه في كندا.
طبعا.
سام، قول لي احنا ليه المفروض ان احنا نعمل وصيه لما نكون موجودين في كندا؟
سؤال جميل جدا. عشان ارد عليكي هرد عليكي بالانجلش.
اوكي.
So I can explain myself better.
تمام، بس خليني اوعد المشاهدين ان احنا ان شاء الله هننزل لكم الترجمه تحت الفيديو في صندوق الوصف. اتفضل.
So to answer your question, the idea of a will is to identify what you own and to leave your final wishes, your assets, to your loved ones. For example, a husband would leave it to his wife, and likewise wife to husband, and God forbid if something happens to either one, it gets divided amongst their kids.
Okay.
Or to a charity. But that's the idea of a will, is that you get to choose who you want to leave things to.
تمام. هو في valid will و unvalid will؟
For as long as I can remember, anything that was written was considered to be a will. However, to explain that and answer that properly, there is a difference.
Okay.
So the difference is to first understand what is a will.
Okay.
A will is your final wishes to give your loved ones a gift or an asset, to bestow it to someone. And to do that, you would have to have someone called an executor. An executor is a trusted person who's going to carry out your final wishes.
Okay.
Usually you have a first executor and a backup. God forbid if the first one can't do it, the backup takes care of it. And the people who are receiving within your will, they're called the beneficiaries.
Okay.
They benefit
المستفيدين.
yes, from your estate, your
تمام.
will.
Oh.
So that's what makes a will valid. When you have an executor, the named out beneficiaries, and then you signing at the very bottom.
Okay, very good. So these are the requirements for a valid will?
That is correct. That's what makes a will valid.
Okay, very good. Sam, what happens if, God forbids, one of the parents passes away before he or she writes the will?
So the Ontario law would kick in. The law of succession would outline for a person who doesn't have a will what happens. For example, if you were to pass away and you don't have a will, succession law dictates that the first $350,000 is paid or transferred to your spouse.
Okay.
And then after that, there's a second step within the Succession Law Act that identifies if you have children, dependents, what they're entitled to.
Okay.
So it would be governed by this act.
Okay.
Yes.
God forbids, like we're talking about worst case scenario. What if the two parents are not there?
Again, we'd look to the applicable and relevant act, and the act would outline to us what would happen if both were to pass away in a short period of time of one another, or if they both didn't have a will, period.
Okay.
Again, the act would outline for us, in absence of a will, who gets what.
Okay.
And it's usually the dependents, the children, and if there's no immediate next of kin, you could look to grandparents, siblings as well.
Yeah.
The act will answer that question for you.
Oh. We have a misconception that the government would take the kids if we don't have a will. So you need to clarify this for us.
Yeah, for sure. So no, the government's not going to come take your kids.
Okay.
They will always seek out the next of kin that can look after your kids.
Okay.
And they will seek out who can adopt your kids first from your family.
Okay.
If there's no one at all who can take care of your kids, that's a different scenario. But we're not going to touch that scenario right now, because we're going to always assume that there's an aunt or an uncle who can take care of the child, who can become their parent, essentially, their guardian.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's never the government's going to take away your kids. Don't worry about that. It's always going to be a family member or a next of kin who's going to look after your child for you.
Okay. What if the only family member is not in Canada?
In that situation, the government and courts will look into the best interest of the child,
Okay.
and to see if there is a foster home that they can put them in, or a close member in the community can step up and take guardianship of the children.
Okay.
But unfortunately, when it comes to that, it can become complicated for the child, especially if the child is young.
Okay. And I understand that, like younger children cannot invite, like people from outside. They have to be 18 or
Correct.
older, right?
That'd be correct. They'd have to be a legal adult before that happens.
Some are going to assume that, like everything is going well and all partners are, like on agreement. But
Yeah.
what if one of the partners does not agree on the terms? That can it be challenged?
A will can be challenged. Most of the time, what couples will end up challenging their deceased spouse's will is because of the asset distribution.
Oh,
So, for example, if you write 10% to your wife and 90% to your children, well, unfortunately, your wife has a minimum standard that she's able to apply for through the Succession Act or through the Family Law Act.
okay.
So what that number is, I can't give you an exact figure in terms of what she's entitled to per that will,
Okay.
but she is entitled to the first $350,000 per the Succession Law Act,
Okay.
and through Family Law Act, it's going to be a different number.
Okay.
It's usually whichever's greater that they
Okay.
will apply for. The second most common thing people challenge wills about is when the person is very advanced in their age and they make a will
Oh.
relatively close to the date of death.
Oh.
And then a lot of people will look into it and say, well, it's very, very different from grandpa or grandma's original will. Were they delusional? Were they absent of mind? Could they give instructions?
Yes.
So these are a lot of things that will challenge a will.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long is the will is going to be valid? Like if I wrote a will 20 years ago, is it going to be still valid until today, or should I update it or something?
Your will is valid from the moment you sign it to the moment you pass away.
Oh.
The only time it doesn't become valid is if you outlive all your beneficiaries. So
Oh.
there's no one to gift your assets to.
Oh.
So then you would start to look into remaking your will and making an updated will.
Okay.
But from the moment you sign your will to the moment you die, your will is valid.
Another term that we
Yeah.
need to clarify: power of attorney.
Yeah.
What does this mean?
So there's two powers of attorney. There's two different kinds. There's a power of attorney for your property, which deals with all your finances and anything with money.
Okay.
And there's a power of attorney for your healthcare that deals
Okay.
with you as a human being, as a person.
Mm.
Those two are separate documents, and they deal exclusively with what they're called:
Okay.
property and healthcare.
When do we use the power of attorney?
Hopefully you never have to use it.
Okay.
But a power of attorney is used while you're alive. So the power of attorney for property could be used immediately after signing.
Okay.
The power of attorney for property is basically you're designating someone else to be you, to sign off at things at the bank, to do your tax filings, to remortgage your property, to buy a car, all in your name. It's giving that person 100% trust.
Okay.
You have to identify who you want to be you when you can't be you.
Okay.
People will do it when they're outside the country. They'll give a limited power of attorney for property. Or when you get really sick and you're in the hospital and can't take care of yourself and your finances,
Okay.
you give it to a trusted loved one who can take care of your finances for you.
Okay. This is a tough question. What if this power of attorney got misused?
It happens.
Hmm.
It happens, unfortunately, but that's the liability and risk you take by naming the people that you trust.
Okay.
That's why you have to trust them absolutely 100%. And when you
Okay.
come to sign the document, we make
Aw.
you sign extra paperwork that says you know what you're doing.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, because this is your finances, this is your livelihood, this is what you worked your whole life for.
True.
In a moment's notice, it could all be gone.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
But we obviously hope that you pick
It's
people who are
the-
competent enough
the right ones.
to deal with your finances in your absence.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
As well, the healthcare one usually only kicks in when you can't make decisions for yourself. If you're in a coma, long-term care, considered legally brain dead, then that document would kick in for you. But until if you're in one of those catastrophic accidents, you're free to make a decision for yourself in terms of the medical side of things.
Absolutely.
This is only when you cannot give instructions.
Yeah. If I make a mistake and I just want to cancel or revoke the power of attorney or even the will, can
Yeah.
I do this?
Of course you can. You just
Oh.
take up your original document cut it in half, slice it up, get rid of it.
Oh, that's easy.
That easy.
Okay.
Call up your bank and let them know that you no longer have a power of attorney. That's if you gave them a copy of your power of attorney. And call up your lawyer who made your power of attorney to let them know that you revoked it.
Okay.
So he can make a note, or she can make a note in their file that this document no longer exists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very simple, to be honest. Just cut the document in half and inform those people who have a copy or
Yes.
are your trustees.
Okay, perfect. In Egypt, we have to go and stamp it from, like the official, or from the embassy and stuff like that. Do we have this in here or no?
No, we don't stamp anything. We
Okay.
don't official government seal anything. It's my signature, your signature, and another witness.
Okay.
So
Easy.
the witness, it's easy peasy. The only seal that goes on it is sometimes my seal if you request it.
Okay, wonderful. So, Sam, if I'm coming today to Sam's office, Bishai's office, and I'm asking you that I need to write the will, what documents should I bring with me?
Photo ID, your
Okay.
driver's license and passport is always the first thing that we look for, because we want to identify who you are
Okay.
and validate who you are as a person. Secondly is to have an understanding of who you want your trustees to be and how to spell their name exactly. And further to that is an understanding of what your assets are.
Okay.
So it could be bank accounts, it could be RRSPs, it could be your TFSA, could be your deed to your house, or if you have multiple houses, if you have a cottage, if you have an antique collection of cars, an understanding of all your assets so we can name it.
Okay.
You don't have to name all your assets per se into your will, but some people want to gift certain items to certain people. So that is why we ask you to bring with you the asset list, or to identify with us what assets you own, so we can create a list for you.
Okay, beautiful. How long does it take to create the will?
If you come on a Monday, you can come in next Monday and we'd have it ready for you.
Wow.
Within a week is usually how long it usually takes.
Okay,
Between you reviewing it, giving instructions, second guessing yourself, making changes,
Yeah.
all within a week.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good. استاذ سام من اولادنا من الجيل التاني وبيتكلم عربي حلو، وتقدروا تتكلموا معاه بالعربي وتشرحوا له بالعربي وهو فاهم عليكم تماما. ما تترددوش ان انتوا تروحوا الاوفيس وتطلبوا مساعده لو انتوا حابين تعملوا الوصيه. Sam, before we end this wonderful episode, we're enjoying the time and the
Thank you.
information. We'd love to tell our audience about the services that your office provides for the community.
For sure. We are a full service office. We do everything from landlord and tenant disputes to motor vehicle accidents. So it just depends what you need. Give us a call. We'll tell you if we do it, and if we don't do it, we'll send you to someone we trust, or we'll help you find a lawyer or paralegal. But A through Z, we do it all.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best, and thank you so much for your time and for all this information that you shared with us and with
Thank
our wonderful audience. وإلى أن نلتقي، دمتم في أمان الله. Welcome to Canada, your new home.